They found a 20 centimeter grade 3 malignant tumor in my leg. And they said within a year it will spread to your lungs and then to your brain. So I thought, this is hopeless. I'm ferocious.
My guest today is someone who has pioneered his own unique style of yoga and blending traditional Indian practices with modern influences, including hip-hop dance. Teaching yoga and meditation, he's worked with the likes of HSBC Bank, Nike, ASOS, and has been featured in media such as the BBC and others. Neil Patel is the creator of Chi Kri Yoga and the founder of the Chi Kri School of Yoga. Passionate about physical and spiritual well-being, he's an accomplished author of Anger is Blocked Love, What is Disease, and 10 Principles of Perfect Eating. As a pioneering Vedic astrologer, he's created Chi Kri Astro, integrating Vedic and Western astrology. Neil, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. It's so much like short notice. I really appreciate you being here today.
Welcome. Pleasure.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, brilliant. Can't complain.
You're looking amazing.
Thank you very much. It's my green day today.
Yeah.
So everything is green, the color of love. So that's what we're here to give, some love.
Beautiful. That's what I wanted to ask you. What can people expect? What would you like to leave people with today after today's conversation?
Just leave them with the feeling that inside them is the power of God, the power of their soul, and that they should not rely on anything else apart from their innate power within.
Beautiful. And so we're going to talk about how to get there, because being human, the human self to that sort of divine self, as it were, the higher self, becoming that is a bit of a journey, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. It is a journey. But that's the whole purpose of life, is to take that journey, right? And that journey is yoga.
Yeah.
So if you think about the genesis of life, when we're created and born and put down here, yoga is the journey back, and that's what I deal with. That's the most important thing.
So I'd really like to talk about that, because people think of yoga, even in India. I know that we say always in the West, people think of it as only the asanas, the physical postures. But even in India, I think people have come to think of yoga only as being what we see, because it's easy to relate to, something that's visual. You can actually experience the benefits of it. But the true essence of yoga is not actually the asana, the physical postures, right? So talk about that. How do you interpret that journey, which is yoga? First of all, explain in your words, how do you explain yoga? What is yoga for you?
Well, yoga is divine union or divine reunion, because the whole purpose of yoga is to understand the metaphysics of it, which is that when God wanted to create us, he created us out of a need to experience love. That was one thing he couldn't do on his own. Yeah. So he created Maya, he created the world, he created the planet that we live on, the universe, put us here as his children, and then wanted us to find him as a journey of love, a divine love, a divine romance, as Yogananda calls it, between God and the souls. So once we're down here, we're lost. We don't know what is what. We're in delusion. And then our journey back to find God again, which is what he wanted in the first place, is what yoga is. It's that divine reunion back with our source. So anything that assists you in doing that is yoga. So if that's karma yoga, if you connect with other people through your service, if it's japa yoga, you connect with holy syllables and chants. If it's jnana yoga, which is using your wisdom to connect with truth. If it's Raja Yoga, which is meditating, using the raising of the Kundalini towards the third eye and then emancipating yourself into the crown chakra, that's yoga. There's many different types of yoga. Yeah. The asana part is just a supporting structure in the Raja Yoga system, which is Hatha Yoga, but not much more than that, really.
It's just the sort of 1/8 of the journey, exactly. Isn't it? It's 1/8 of the process.
Yeah. And you don't even need it. You don't even need to do asana to complete the journey. If you're very good, in fact, many yogis say that if there was one thing you did do between asana and pranayama, it's pranayama. So if you get too hooked on asana and use that as your focal point, you really can get lost down an egotistical path in yoga and actually lose your way completely. So it's better to do enough asana that you're capable of sitting in meditation for long periods of time, that you're not suffering too much, that you can be mobile. That's really what asana is about. You can learn a lot from each individual asana, no doubt, but you will not get the ultimate fulfillment of yoga just through asana practice.
You
need
have
to do
to
a
bring
lot
the
more.
other elements into it, right? So
Much,
the
much, yeah.
dhyan, the dharana, the dhyan, and eventually into samadhi. But I think the point being that, the journey is one of self-awareness. Whether, for a lot of people, self-awareness is easier through the physical means. So when you have the physical body, it's immediate, it's here, you can relate to it. And of course, we all need to be healthy, right? So we have to be healthy if we're going to experience any level of joy or bliss or whatever. Because if you're not physically healthy, to begin with, if you're not physically healthy, you're in pain. And so all your attention is focused on that.
It's interesting. You're right. In the ordinary sense, that's correct. And that's the point of the asana. However, you tend to get more development through your pain and through your suffering. Yoga is all about restriction.
Yeah.
We have to remember everything. Pranayama is control, and the yamas and the niyamas, the controlling principles of yoga, are all about restriction. And as the yogis go up through their process, many of them will restrict themselves from food, from water, from their likes, from the things they want in life, to force themselves to look for that joy within their soul. So oftentimes when people do suffer physically, it's actually good for them spiritually, and they actually do their most development when they're in pain. So what I tend to teach people is, look, don't try to get healthy as your goal in life. Try to be happy as your goal in life. Whether your health is good or not is sometimes irreparable. Sometimes, for example, if you have, a bone problem or a problem which is coming with age, like you're 100 years old, you're not going to be physically healthy, but you can still be spiritually healthy.
Yeah.
So that's also where asana begins to fall apart in the end, is that you're not going to have asana, beautiful health till the end. So, but yoga is not about your health. It's about your union with God and finding Him within you.
And that's where Patanjali says, second sutra, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So that is that yoga is the interruption. It must possibly the stopping, the cessation of that whirlpool of the mind, the stuff of the mind.
Yeah, exactly.
That if at the end of the day, it still comes down to self-awareness, that you can't be making choices unless you're aware of what your default is. You can't have an alternative to your default. So you're absolutely right. I mean, we do need that. The whole journey of yoga is really about becoming aware of the self beyond what is transitory, right? The emotions, the feelings, the physical body, the mind, any of that stuff is just here as a medium to help you to realize who you truly are, your true nature, as we call it, Atman in the Vedic philosophy, in the Advaita philosophy. So that's really interesting. And I know that you went through a very personal, physical challenge for yourself, where what you're talking about is coming from that first-hand experience. So tell us about what happened with you. How did you go about dealing with your condition?
Well, about 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer of the muscle. So that was my left leg. They found a 20 centimeter grade 3 malignant tumor in my leg. And they said within a year it will spread to your lungs and then to your brain. And, that's pretty bad. Look, I was teaching yoga for 7 years before I got cancer. So I started teaching at 18, right? So, but I didn't understand how powerful it was. So I was very lucky because my mother was a yoga teacher, right? For many years, since 1976 in the UK. So I was very lucky to have a guru in the house, Paramahansa Yogananda, and my mom was a yoga teacher. So the information was around. So as soon as I got this diagnosis, I thought, hold on a second, I've got a soul inside me that's supposed to be immortal, right? So I was very blessed and very lucky to have the knowledge. Where I did well was having the guts and the courage to say, I'm not going to take this system and I'm going to just go for it. So, and then after that, you go deeper into your meditations, and the deeper you go, the more you realize that you are, as you said, Atman. You are just a soul. And after my body finally dies, I'm going to still be alive because my soul is going to live. All I've done is fast forwarded the process to bring my soul's immortality into my life
Everyday
now.
existence.
And now my soul carries my dead body around.
Integrating the material with the spiritual.
Yeah, my soul is carrying the cancer around for me. And it's preventing it from spreading. When my doctors looked at my system, they said it's either your immune system is as powerful as an ox, or you've got something in your genetic code that we've never seen before. But they wrote me off the register in the end and said, we're discharging you 2 years ago. But what I have is courage and guts, and I'm not scared of anything. That's what I have on myself. I'm fearless. I don't care about death or life. I'm not attached to death or life.
Samyam.
If I walk out the studio and I die now, I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less about my work or anything.
Yeah.
So I've completely detached, and I'm very strong mentally. That's what I have. The rest is all yoga.
Beautiful. So we share that philosophy, I have to say. For me, it's like if next moment I was to drop dead, for me, it's a complete life, a whole complete life. Because every second, I myself try to live like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do for somebody else? How can I make this moment really count and not lose it? And have that sense of santosh. I don't chase happiness. I would just say contentment. Just being satisfied, just being content with whatever it is right now.
I paraphrase it was the best medicine is an attitude. Having an attitude. And people say attitude is bad, but attitude, if you use it the right way, is not bad. If you have an underlying feeling at the base of your being that you can't be touched and no one can beat you or defeat you, that's an attitude. But if you have an attitude, and I walked out of my doctor's office hundreds of times when they've told me this is going to kill you. What do you not understand about death? Sit down. This cancer will guaranteed kill you, guaranteed. And I walked away. I shook their hand. I said, thank you. I know that you care about my life, but I'll let you know if I need your help. And I never got angry with them because they're trying to do their job.
Yes. Really inspiring. I mean, beyond inspiring. Okay, so the attitude. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of your cancer. And if, live or die, be equanimous in either. Whichever comes is all good.
And double down on your soul.
And double down on your soul. But do you think, so I want to move on to the other things that you do in a bit, but I do you think the reason why people are afraid? I often find that people are afraid because they don't have anything else in their frame of reference that they can truly have as an inner experience. It's not something like a conversation with your higher self, or conversation with God, or experiencing the presence of God in moments of deep meditation, or in any moment, like even in waking moments after meditation comes. Not needing to have meditation, to do meditation, because the veil thins so much between this reality and the other. Now, I'm not expecting people to have that level of sadhana, practice, commitment, but still, I feel that if more people had a frame of reference where something bigger than their physical temporary reality exists, and it's a compassionate reality. You call it God, call it Brahman, call it what you like. Don't you think that would be the access to people not feeling afraid?
Yeah, if nothing else, they should just think about service. Another way to look at it, if you get diagnosed with cancer, just say, right, for the amount of days I have left, I'm just going to serve the poor. I'm going to go and work in an orphanage. I'm going to serve the homeless. That itself will cure your cancer. Cure maybe, but you'll overcome it. Because it's love and it's union with God, because you're looking after somebody else and your ego shrinks, you become selfless, and the spirit wakes up in you. So even stuff like that, it doesn't have to be meditation, but even if you just become more charitable, I always say to people who come to me with cancer, right, what's your purpose? If I got rid of your cancer tomorrow, what would you do? And sometimes people will tell me that they don't know. And I said, the first thing you need to do is find your purpose, because maybe part of the reason the cancer has come is because you're stagnant, because you're inert, because your energy is not flowing, because it was like that with me, if I'm honest. You're frustrated, you're confused, you're stuck, which is where I was. Clear that out the way, get your purpose, and that inspiration energy is enough to bring out the immune system to fight for you. Because what's your immune system doing? It's your white blood cells are fighting for you. But if you're not fighting for you and you don't have a fight on your hands and you're not fighting for anything, where's the fight in your life?
So the idea of purpose, I feel that in the last few years has become so like, oh, what's my purpose? I've got to be on purpose. I've got to do this. I've got to, my purpose, my purpose. But the Shastras have always said, don't worry about, do your thing, do your dharma, do what is appropriate for you to do in your immediate environment. And if there's a bigger calling for you, listen to that voice within and it will tell you. But often we hear the voice and we ignore it because the calling isn't something that you might want to do. I'm sure Mother Teresa didn't expect to land in India, in Calcutta, live in, and walk the slums the way that she did and work with the people. I don't think that was something she'd envisaged as a purpose for herself. But the listening of that inner being, which is what you're talking about as God, or however you want to, Atma, you want to call it, I call it my inner diamond, because it is that treasure. It's the pure light of knowledge, and just pure light, that is love, that is knowledge, whatever you want to tap into through whichever facets of the diamond you can tap into it. So I feel that I don't even want people to worry about purpose. I wonder whether people can just make a choice. If you don't know what your purpose is, choose to do something which impacts somebody else, one other person, perhaps two people.
That's a purpose in itself.
Yeah.
To do something. When people come to me looking for, especially, I think the cancer situation is quite an important one, and quite a one you have to look at carefully, because those people are in a life and death moment.
Yes.
And they need some support, some guidance. So when they come to me and they are lost, and sometimes when you get a diagnosis like that, people do get thrown on what to do next. So I tell them, look, the three main purposes of life, the umbrella ones: build a personal relationship with God, learn and gain wisdom and knowledge about your environment, the world you live in, learn as much as you can, develop your wisdom. And the third purpose is service to others. So if you've got nothing else to do, serve everyone around you, develop your knowledge, and develop a personal relationship with your source, and start moving in however you do it, start moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And
take
start
one
going.
of those at least.
Take something.
Take one. So, I mean, just that relationship with your inner being, with the higher self, with, if you relate to deities, fine, experience what that is. And then that starts to kind of give you so many insights and intuitions and answers, and ask questions, ask how questions. I feel, all these types of things are just immediately available to people, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what else do you do in terms of your you don't take medication?
Yeah.
What do you take? What do you consume?
With diet-wise?
Food, anything else that helps you keep the cancer away?
Nothing different.
Or rather keep the cancer from spreading?
Nothing different. Nothing. No, just my yoga, meditation.
Talk about what your diet looks like. Are you a vegetarian?
Pescatarian.
You're
pescatarian. Pescatarian diet. Just very simple diet. I don't eat too much. I do a lot of training. I'm always in the gym. I'm always doing my yoga, my weights, my core work, so I'm eating well, but not too much. And I don't think about food very much, to be honest with you.
How often do you eat in a day?
Twice a day. So I have
lunch and dinner, or
breakfast and dinner.
Breakfast and dinner.
Yeah. But the thing is, when I went through this cancer system, I realized how many charlatans and how many people out there are trying to talk about food. And I tried so many different diets and so many different foods. And none of them really had an effect on the cancer. Restrictions of food and additions of foods. And so many systems contradict. Chinese said you have to have meat. Indians said don't touch meat. Some people say have salt. Some people say don't. Blood pressure. You can get so confused with food. I just thought, it's such a minefield, supplements and food. I'm going to go to source. My prana my food, my energy is coming directly from my meditations, and it will go into my body and nourish it and do what it needs to do with it. I'm not wasting time worrying about food. I'll eat anything almost.
Prana being vital force for people that don't
my
know.
chi, that's my
Yeah,
chi,
the
my
chi,
energy.
yeah. Yeah.
So God is my diet. God is my food. He's my nourishment. So, he's worked well for me so far. Meditation and yoga, that's my diet.
Do you relate to God in a specific form?
God to me is non-form. For me, it's non-form. A being of love, of lots of wisdom, incredible amounts of wisdom and truth. He appears to me as wisdom and truth, and just a lot of support and love. And so, a non-form version of God is where most of my attention is.
And do you experience being supported by beings which are not necessarily God itself, maybe masters,
My
ascended
guru.
masters? Are you talking about Paramahansa Yogananda?
Paramahansa Yogananda, Swami Sri Yukteswar Ji, Lahiri Mahashai, Mahavatar Babaji, my 4 gurus, and Christ and Krishna.
Beautiful.
So my gurus, yeah.
So we have. I just have to say we have so much in common. The Autobiography of a Yogi for me, which is written by Paramahansa Yogananda, kicked off my entire journey of self-discovery. I literally left my job. I went to India 6 months, traveled around. Literally, that was where it had begun before, but that was in earnest. And today. There are so many incidents I could talk about, or synchronicities and synergies, but somehow I ended up having a Kriya Guru who is from the lineage of Paramahansa Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar, and Kriya Yoga.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's an interesting phenomena that some people are very much aligned with that, and other people have no notion of it. What's your take on this? Is it karma? Or is it past life?
As in the gurus?
Well, the ability to relate to recognize them as being powerful, as being helpful, as being gurus, as being a lineage. For example, in your case, the lineage of Sri Yukteswar and before him, Lahiri Mahashaya and so on. Have that as in your awareness. It's not something that everybody's aware of.
Yeah, I think what they say is when the time is right, your guru will appear, right? So, and you will recognize him or them or her when they appear. So I think you need to be receptive. You need to potentially have had a past experience with that master.
That's what I think.
And that takes a little bit of time, because until you meet your guru, you will be working maybe by yourself with books, with teachers, with acharyas, different levels of teachers that you will have, and then eventually the master will come. So the reason why maybe not everyone is having an experience of that or recognizing it is because they're not quite at that level, as it were. But that's okay. When that level comes, it will come, isn't it?
Amazing. It's as if you have an already developed memory somewhere to fall back on, which may not necessarily be because you had cancer at such a young age. Would you say that it was something, there was I'm not saying it was a live memory that you could tap into, but there was a way of being, a sanskar, or some way of, part of even your character that was already developed, that allows you to have the approach that you have, to have the trust in that lineage, to have the trust in the masters.
I think you're absolutely right. I think because as soon as push came to shove and you get diagnosed with cancer, I came home immediately that afternoon from the doctor's office, and I started writing, and I wrote all about my soul and everything and what needs to happen next. And I started my plan immediately. There was no emotion from me, no sadness, no tears, nothing. Right. I was fine. I was just ready to go to the next chapter of my life's journey. But that is because I was lucky enough to have a guru in my house. from a young age, Paramahansa Yogananda, and my mum was a yoga teacher. So that's a blessing from a past life. But, life is a mixture of cancers and gurus, right? It's like, it's just part of the journey. You get cancer one day, you have a guru. What do you do?
Why did you, I'm going to say, at a soul level, why do you think you might have chosen, or your higher self might have chosen, to have cancer as your life path, in your life path, in such an intense way? And particularly, you've had it now for 25 years or so. So, and you haven't had any treatment for it. So why do you think that would have been a part of the course of your soul's journey?
I think there's a couple of things. I've thought about this. It's a very good question. I think part of it is, maybe this is me wanting it to be this way, but maybe sometimes God needs somebody to prove his power, right? Where now he's demonstrating that a person that meditates for 25 years is able to live with cancer. And this person is saying that it's God. Do you know what I mean? So God is saying, well, I have a representative on earth now who's demonstrating, the first person in the world to live with cancer for 25 years. And he's saying that it's me. So there's, that's my guy, right? He's on the earth. He's talking about me. So hopefully that is one reason. The other reason is because, you need a massive kick up the backside. I needed. So what bigger kick up the backside that God could give you for someone as powerful
Why did
as
you
me?
need a kick?
Now, let me just finish what I'm saying. So that kick up the backside comes at whatever age it comes at, but it stays there for so long because I permanently need a kick up the backside, right? I'm so close to going off the rails. I'm so close to losing my way that I'm the kind of person that God's going to need to kick every single morning, right? So that's me knowing that I'm capable of losing the plot. I'm not a brilliant human being. I'm not a very good human. I don't think I'm a very great advert for humanity. But I think that given the right kick up the backside and the right tools like yoga, I end up being a good teacher. So I'm not, life is like that. You don't have perfect people. You have people that are bad, that turn good, or people that have disabilities that turn good. And life is a mixture. So I think I lost my way very young through, I was following the music path and working really hard on my rap career, my hip hop career. It was a real struggle. So I was losing my way, losing my focus, losing my attention, spending too much time out, too much time running around. But yet at the same time, I was running yoga classes. So I had this kind of dichotomy of I was in a nightclub all night, then next time I was teaching yoga class, out all night, in. So it's this kind of confusion. And somewhere in the mix of all that, I lost myself. And the next thing I was sick. And then when I got sick, I started to wake up. So I think God saved me and also kicked my butt. And
so you think we all need a kick up the backside?
I don't think I needed it.
Right. I want to talk about resistance in the whole, the sort of the mix of what we're talking about, the kind of resistance that we have to many, many aspects of life in general. We don't even know it, and in my case, one of the things that I've noticed, people I've coached or people, myself too, like the moment I stop resisting through, for example, an addiction to sugar, for me, that was something that I had to really, really deal with because I just had a very sweet tooth. It wasn't so much an addiction as it's something that really needed managing because in and of itself, sugar is just such a poison. The moment you start to give into it a little bit, it wants more and more and more. Before you know it, within a week, you've kind of abandoned mission and you're kind of on this path of wanting to have something sweet every single day or whatever. And I'm just thinking that, resistance plays a role in disease as well as in allowing us or not allowing us to achieve our goals and be healthy. One level, be healthy, but also just other goals that we may have in life, So what's your view on resistance? Like, is that something you've thought about as being something you're aware of?
Resistance is not a word I have ever really had in my brain for
Really?
anything. I'm trying to understand what you mean by you mean control?
So sometimes we have something show up. It's an easy path. It's like, have healthy habits. Choose healthy habits, but we don't. We kind of resist choosing what we know to be the right thing to do, and we take something which we know is not so great for us, and is probably going to lead us.
I don't struggle a lot with that. I have to
Do
be
you
honest
not?
with no, because I've got a very strong mind.
Yeah.
When I decide that something is something I'm going to do or not do, it's very quick for it to happen. I've got a really strong willpower.
Right.
So I don't go through that. I'm really disciplined as a person. So, and I think discipline is very important.
Key.
It's super important. You
Yeah.
can't succeed. What I've
And
done
you
with my
do know
cancer
it's a
is
very, very unsexy word right now in
Is it?
neuroscience, don't you? You know that is a very unsexy word. But so self-discipline is now said by some neuroscientists to be something that is very toxic. So, I mean, as a
strange
yogi,
for me.
Do you know what I mean? As a yogi,
Yeah.
that is the mainstay of every single thing that you will choose
Well, it's
to
the
do.
guru and disciple is discipline. Disciple and the word discipline are the same. You have to be a disciplinarian if you're a yoga. And I run a yoga school, right? I run a yoga many teacher training courses and schools and so everything is about discipline with me. Things have to be disciplined to be successful. Nothing else. If you're not disciplined, forget about it. There's nothing you can do for you.
So by discipline, can you give a distinction for discipline? How would you describe your discipline?
You have to have your boundaries and your borders kept, which secure your practices and the things that are good for you. There have to be fences set up which you don't break. And no matter what happens, you do them. It's not emotional. It's not feeling based. You don't do things if you want, if you don't, and all that rubbish. You just do it. You don't mess about. Like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym when you feel like it. You just go. It's not a question. Your meditation or your spiritual practice every day, you don't do it on good days when you're in a good mood. You do it every day. And you do it on the worst days.
And you commit to something and you do it. That's really what it comes down to.
You commit to it until it's wise not to do it anymore, or you make a conscious decision that it's wise not to do it anymore, or it's not serving you, and you think of that in the cold light of day, then you can uncommit. Then you can undiscipline yourself. But a life without discipline is a life which will destroy itself. All the boring things are important. Organization, discipline, structure, all those types of things, routine. Those are the things that make you successful. All the stuff that nobody wants to do. And emotions and all that kind of stuff is the stuff that destroys you.
Beautiful. How do you deal with emotions, you personally?
I don't really do a lot of emotions, to be honest with you. I don't.
Okay, let me put it another way to you. So out of the Shadripus, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, you've got the kind of craving, lust, you've got the anger, you've got arrogance or pride, you've got jealousy, envy, you've got attachment, being attached to people and things. Of all of those 6 vices, I think I missed out one in the translation, but of the 6 vices, is there one in particular that's a tough one for you? Anger or?
I think anger is probably, if there's any of them, it's probably anger.
Yeah.
It's probably that I'm very fiery. And over the years, I've learned to channel that into my training in the gym. That's why I have to be at the gym for at least 2.5 hours to get it all out. I channel it into my focus in my meditations. Like when I approach God, even since I was a kid, I approach him really firmly. You will talk to me. We will sit here until
we'll have that conversation.
We are going to deal with this today. So find yourself and be around. And I deal with it, my discipline, like I talked about, discipline and willpower. That's my anger. That's my self kind of like, I don't forgive myself. I will not sleep if I lose my discipline. It's like that. I'm very firm on myself. I'm good to most people. If you ask most people, I'm not an angry person. But if we're talking about that level, then I think I look at it and I think, okay, what can I do with this? Let me use it for my disciplines and my will. Let me use it for my disciplines and my will, and not on other people, which I don't really do. But I think that's That's it.
What about emotions, though, from other people that are generated in you, triggered in you? Let's just say, which ones are the toughest for you to deal with?
Probably the feeling of being able to give people as much expectation. I don't know if that's an emotion, but being let down by people not being at a certain level or doing what I would think that they should do for me, which I think is really toxic. So I'm always trying to lower my expectations of people and try and be a bit more realistic about what people should do or what people can do, and
what they're capable of doing, as opposed to what you would do.
As opposed to what I would do. Yeah.
Interesting. So, what's your take on karma?
Karma is,
and particularly in terms of like life experiences, what shows up in your life as patterns.
Karma, I think, sews everything together. Karma, the subject of karma and reincarnation, sews the whole story of life together. If it wasn't for karma, then people would just be indiscriminate and be allowed to be indiscriminate in how they behave. They could do anything without any repercussion. So karma allows for there to be order. It's a law, a universal law that keeps everything in check and allows for people to be accountable for their actions. So I think without karma, I think that everything falls apart immediately. The whole universe falls apart without karma. I think it's most important. And I'm fine with karma. Like with my cancer, I think was all my karma. I've never held anyone responsible for my disease, even what I have today. I think I fully deserved it. I think it wasn't because of my diet. It wasn't because of anything. It's fully my responsibility. And the minute you have responsibility, you have power. When you have no responsibility, you have no power. Especially of a cancer disease like that, because I made it, I can destroy it. So that's karma's good. I love karma. Karma's great. And I would like for people to be more responsible for their own karma and accept their own lessons, take it on the chin, deconstruct it into wisdom, and then move forward and don't create it again. And as Yogananda says, try and build up a store of good karma. He's always saying, the best thing you can do, just build up a store of good karma. Just keep, because you never know when you need it. On those days when, when I got diagnosed with cancer, it was my good karma from the past that saved me. That I'd done good actions before, had come back and said, hey,
That's what I was getting at, because, how you approach something is very much determined by who you are, right? And how you think and your perspectives in life. And it seems that, there are certain aspects of what people call our personality, things that we show up as, the inclination we have, how we would react to situations, how we respond to things and so on. It seems that there are certain things that we have learned and developed in previous incarnations, perhaps. At least I certainly. Otherwise, it could just be random. It could just be. I mean, I allow for the possibility that the universe could just be a random occurrence, and we're all random instances with nowhere that we've come from and nowhere to go to. It's a possibility. I can entertain it for about a second, but I know that people believe that as a reality. So when you're talking about karma and how you personally have dealt with your situation with cancer, it's like you had a certain inbuilt resource that expressed itself, that you were able to tap into it well enough that you can communicate, with higher forces and stuff, which is beautiful. But even the ability to do that trust, that faith, that came from somewhere as a seed planted when, in that moment when you discovered, it was there when you discovered that you had cancer and how you wanted to approach it.
So there's your samskaras, your grooves of thought, get built over many, many lifetimes, and they get attached to your psyche, and they eventually become your brain, and they form your patterns of thought.
Yeah.
And then also your DNA is karmic as well. The DNA, the chromosomes you get from your mom and your dad and their capacities and their karmas and their ancestral karmas become yours as well. The location that you're born in is part of your karma. The society around you will be your karma. What's in your house, the books, everything are part of your karma. Nothing is random. Everything is placed there for a reason.
And where does free will come into it then? How much do we have?
Yeah, I think, Yogananda expresses it as 75% karma, things that are going to happen, and 25% free will.
Still quite a lot of free will.
So I think it's somewhere around there where you'll be locked into your DNA, you'll be locked into your environment, locked into your chromosomes, locked into planetary aspects, which is another thing where karma comes up. And certain things will guide your blueprint as to what you're likely to come across and what you need to come across. But then how you play your cards is still up to you. Karma is like a deck of cards. Like if you're playing a card game, you might get a bunch of cards, but then you've still got to play them. Some people will have a good hand and play it badly. Some people have a bad hand and play it well and still win. So karma's a little bit like that. It's like a hand of cards. I remember when I got cancer, my brother, I love my brother, my elder brother, his one piece of advice to me was very simple. He just said, this is the hand you've been dealt. Deal with it in a nice way.
Yeah.
So he just said to me, these are the cards. Now play them. Instead of this, that, and the other. He was very, very succinct and helped me a lot.
Amazing. So is that so you chose to tackle it. Somebody else may choose to approach it in a very different way, and this is karma in a sense. These are the sanskars that built over a period of time, right? Yeah. And you talk about reincarnation. Have you actually had any memories? Do you have any recollections or any immediate something that has, that you remember or that feels like you've been in a place before or met somebody before or something like that? Do you have any of those instances in your life?
I'm not that interested in reincarnation. What I know is that the strongest qualities that I have in me now, I had in me before. So as we said earlier, with yoga and with my music, and also the way I took to yoga teaching was very, very quick. I was able to stand up in front of classes at the age of 18 without any nerves or without any second guessing. I was on stages at 16, 17 doing music. So I've been on stage before. I've done yoga before. I've done music before. These things I know. I've had courage before. I've probably messed up before because I messed up again. So, and I may have had cancer before. Yeah, and not dealt with it. Yeah, this is true.
Interesting.
I may not have overcome my cancer before, and that seed stays in my samskaras in my head, and that little seed, as soon as I, get into a bad state again, it popped up, and this time, hopefully, I'm nailing it and proving to the universe once and for all that look, I'm stronger than this thing. I don't need it again. Thank you.
This is the thing, isn't it? That we sort of almost invite pain subconsciously in order that we can learn something through it. And when I was in my 20s and I started to go, really deep into my journey, to really sort of ask the questions, who am I? One of the things that I realized was that I was actually really addicted to melodrama, like this Bollywood style melodrama, relationships and stuff. And, it was stuff that I actually could filter as having come through watching Bollywood movies and stuff, all these unrequited love stories and stuff like that. And I made up my mind, no, absolutely not going to go there. I am not interested in drama, period. Absolutely not interested. And my conversation that I had with my higher self at that time was like, I am committing myself right now to creating a life which is effective. It works. A life that truly works. One where whatever happens, drama is not a part of that response.
Yeah.
And I feel that we kind of come on a path in our journey, in our lives, where we are here to learn various facets of our power, inner power, as you are, in your connection to God, in your connection to your higher self, to your own soul, that you source yourself from. And I feel that that's kind of like the whole journey in a sense of whichever incarnation you're in, right?
Yeah.
And we develop these qualities and we bring them with us. And then the journey that we need to kind of decipher is like, what is my journey here? Is it to master my mind? Is it to, to make that connection? Is it to serve other people with what I've already established? Maybe a combination of all of those,
Yeah.
So for me, that's where I come from in terms of reincarnations, that the sanskars that we bring. Because not all sanskars are good sanskars. Of course, many of them are not. They're not helpful, and we need to really transform them. So is that what you're doing in your journey?
Yeah, I see this my own samskaras as being like a garden in my mind where whatever I concentrate on will grow and whatever I don't concentrate on will die. That's what I teach at my school. So if you have a thought or a pattern that you see occurring, don't think about it. Don't concentrate on it, because the minute you start thinking about it, it grows. And the more you sit and think about it, the bigger the tree is going to come in. And then every time you look at the garden of your mind, you'll only see the big trees, right? And so you'll automatically go there. It will dominate you. So that's where the discipline of thought comes in, is being really careful what you think about, because what you think about, you will become.
Repetitively.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you just have to, and that's where discipline helps.
Yeah. So I was just saying that when I was talking about resistance earlier, that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
Is that there are certain sanskars, certain patterns that we have in the mind, which are not of the conscious mind. They are from the unconscious, or they are from the subconscious, and therefore the avjit mind, avjitman as we call it in Sanskrit. And therefore, they come up, and sometimes they come up so strongly that it occurs as being the reality, the truth. So, would you not say that if you ignore it, if you don't think about it, if you just ignore it, that actually what you're doing is stashing it away into the psyche, right? So it becomes more of a resistance, becomes like a shadow.
No. The way samskaras work is that if you ignore them for long enough and you don't repeat them for long enough, they will eventually subside. 12 years is the length of time given that it takes for a samskara to die, to completely destroy. For example, if you smoked and then after 5 years, you still could be tempted to start it again because the samskara is still alive. After 10 years, it could still happen again. But after 12 years, it can't happen again. So you have to let it die and not repeat it and not think about it, not feed it, not even give it the credit of contemplation.
I call it indulgence. Sometimes when you have something like that going on, we kind of indulge in,
thinking about
digging,
it,
and insisting that it's true that, somebody treats you a certain way. So you insist that that's how, or maybe they don't, but you make a story that they do. And those are all sanskars, right? These are all sanskars where there is that is what I was trying to explain earlier was in terms of resistance. That's kind of a resistance to recognizing that this is not helpful. I shouldn't be
pattern.
I shouldn't be dancing with this. I shouldn't be indulging in this.
Yes, correct.
This pattern.
Yeah.
And people do. And so that's why I was saying that what you're saying something very different to what Carl Jung says. You're familiar with Carl
Yeah,
Jung.
Not that familiar, but I know who he is.
So I actually quite resonate with his I take on board everything you're saying, and sanskars, and there are the two ways of handling them. You either don't feed any of it, any pattern that you have, choosing, for example, one of the things that I suffered with was, always choosing somebody, a man, or not even choosing, but who would show up in my life would be somebody who was unavailable in one shape or other, emotionally or whatever, and I would absolutely get besotted with them, could not get them out of my mind. And that was a pattern that I had, that I absolutely knew that I am not going to indulge in anymore. It has to die. It has to die. And the way that I personally did it was to actually look at the pattern, to maybe see if there was a source to it. I found a source to where that might come from. I mean, it's all hypothesis because, who knows. But I then was able to say, okay, now I see that. And I choose not to go in that direction anymore. So then it's just a way of becoming aware and self-aware of what's working, what's not working. And actually, as a result of what's not working, what is more preferable. What would I rather put there? And that's a whole other journey of discovery, like, to explore, like, what
Yeah.
what would I put there? Like that, if I say
So
no
that's
to
wisdom. What you're doing is
this,
using jnana yoga, and wisdom is the greatest cleanser. So you're cleansing through that. When you also, but there's more than one way to skin a cat.
this is the thing.
So you can do it. You can let it die, or you can get it out quicker by jnana yoga, which is what you've done. But there are many ways to do it.
Mm. Good to know. I'm glad that there's not just that one way. So that self-awareness element, I feel, is like really, really important. What about personal evolution through yoga? Now, I want to talk about, like, how can a person evolve through the yogic practice? What should they? We're talking back about meditation? We're talking about being aware of your diet, but actually sitting in contemplation, finding a system of meditation that works for you. What would
Through
you
what yogic
recommend?
practice? Through Raja Yoga, through meditation practice, or generally in yoga in a broad sense?
What are your thoughts on if I come to you and say, look, I really want to evolve my consciousness and I want to do it, yoga is said to be the thing. Where would they begin?
Yeah, they'd begin probably with meditation. For me, I'd first ask them how they are in their mind. Can they control their mind? Have you got in control of your thoughts? You can see I'm all about control, right? I'd say, how are your thoughts? And most people will tell me their thoughts are all over the place. They can't stop thinking. They can't sleep properly. They've got insomnia. Their emotions are going round and round and round. So the first thing I'd give them is meditation techniques to control their emotions, to control their thoughts. And then I'll say, how is your breathing? Give them techniques to control their breathing. Give them techniques to master their breath, and then to dissolve their breath, and then to train them to get up their chakras towards their third eye. I'd work the meditation route. At the same time as doing that, I'd teach them about the metaphysics, how the universe works, what life is about, but metaphysically. So I'd give them a lot of rational, metaphysical, scientific understanding of how the universe works. And then I'd go through their meditation system and clean up their consciousness. And that's what I would do. If you said to me, here's someone, give them yoga, that's what I would do with them. I'd go straight for their mind. I wouldn't even give them pranayama exercises or asana. I'd go straight in their head and say, what's going on up there? And then I'd teach them about the universe.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then what about the meditation that you actually practice? What do you practice? Kriya, or what do you do?
My personal practice, yeah, I do a lot of Kriya. Well, I don't do a lot of Kriya. I do a reasonable amount of Kriya yoga. Some of Yogananda's other techniques I've done in the past. And I do a lot of my own techniques, my own meditation practice. But techniques, nowadays, I sit in my meditation. I have a few words with God about whatever is currently around.
Conversation with God.
Yeah, a few words with him about what's going on around. Get his diagnosis and understanding and guidance on what to do and all those. So I basically take all my junk first, put it on his doorstep, say fix it. He fixes it. Then from there he takes my breath away, and then he starts to work on giving me visions of new teachings and philosophies. And God is very expressive with me. He's very analogical and pictorial, and he's very talkative. He shows me lots of things. So we go through a conversation about new teachings and new ideas and new visions. And then we sit for about 5 minutes together in silence, and then I leave. So my meditations now, as I try to be more disciplined with them, can come down to about 15, 17 minutes. But if I'm undisciplined on a day, then they can run into...
Takes a bit longer because you have more to clear.
Not more to clear, it's just I just indulge in him and he indulges in me, and we just sit there for 45 minutes and so much is happening. But the problem with that is then I have a business to run and work to do, and then I just want to be in meditation all day.
Yeah.
So I just try to curtail him down to about 15, 20 minutes, make my notes, and then try to get on with my day.
Okay, how do you talk to God? Do you write things down? Do you do automatic writing? Or is it just literally in you
he's just talking.
being with...
He's just talking in my consciousness.
Okay.
He talks in my consciousness, and then if it gets too much, or what he's saying is so pertinent and important and different, then I'll dictate down. He dictates to me. I'll write down his word for word,
Sometimes,
verbatim.
yeah. Beautiful.
And sometimes he'll give me pictures. So then I'll go and get my my pad quickly and Sharpie and draw his teaching.
Is there anything that you find you have asked about that is not told, that is not answered?
No, not really. The only thing he's recently been talking about, this only a few days ago, was about his birth, about God's birth, where he's come from. So she was showing me the universe and certain superimposing bubbles and spheres about how gods are born from each other and the lineage of gods. Very hard to describe in words, as you can imagine, but it was a moving diagram, a 3-dimensional diagram of that space. And then he said to me, but remember this. He said, this is not something that you need to know, because when you were a child, all you can remember when you think back is your parents were always there, right? And I said, yeah. He says, and anything before that has no effect on your evolution now. So he says, don't worry about where I've come from, because it will have no effect on your evolution. So I will show you
what you need to know.
What you need to know, and the depth you need to know, I will show you now.
Beautiful. Love that. Love that. Love that. Amazing. Talking about pranayama, I am really passionate about pranayama. Tell me about your favorite pranayams and why. And then give us a demo.
My favorite pranayama, I probably just simple, what I would call Trinity breath, which is the taking a breath in for 3, holding for 3, and exhaling for 3. A simple breath. I'll do it now. So if I'm breathing in for 3 seconds, holding for 3, and exhaling for 3. Just simple slowing down of the breath.
Beautiful.
And if you do that regularly, see that's 3, 3, 3. That's 9 seconds. So 9 seconds into 60 is what, 6 point something. We're used to breathing 18 times a minute. So just by doing that, you're reducing your brain waves, your neurological activity, your muscular activity, respiratory activity, and all the activity of your consciousness and emotions down by half, at least half, very quickly. So just by doing Trinity breath for a couple of minutes, after you've finished that, your brain waves would have dropped down. And from when your brain waves drop down and they become relaxed, you can access your subconscious and your superconscious mind easily. So, but with me, now that I've mastered breathing so much that when I sit to meditate, my breath goes immediately. I don't need
to practice that. It's part of your. Right. You've integrated it in yourself.
Yeah, I don't
breathe. In a normal way of being.
Then, so my prana takes over, my soul takes over. So I don't do much pranayama now. But it's a very important part of yoga, and it's very good.
And it feels so good to breathe. It feels so good.
I don't like breathing.
To breathe. No,
I don't like breathing. I'd rather sit and just lose my breath and go into my spirit.
Yeah, okay. But, we are like sitting in traffic or whatever. Somebody has, done something horrible and, to you or whatever. And then you have to deal with that. It's that kind of thing. For me, that is my interruption. That is how I interrupt that cycle
for sure.
Of perpetuating into the next moment. Just that using the breath, just 5 breaths, whichever ones, and boom, it's gone.
Yeah, it's a lasso that controls the consciousness, because prana is life force and yama is control.
What did you just say? Breath is the lasso that controls consciousness. I love that. Breath is the lasso that controls consciousness.
Yeah, because prana is life force, right? But people forget that prana is not just breath. Prana is consciousness as well.
Yes,
right. It's thought.
Absolutely.
And yama is control. So when you do pranayama, you're throwing a lasso around your consciousness and you are dragging it into shape.
Yeah.
Right, because it can only exacerbate when the breath is exacerbated, when the breath is over. When people get very stressed, they hyperventilate. So the more you breathe rapidly, the more your brain is going out of sync, it's going wild. The less you breathe, the more your brain is under control. So that's why I say it's a lasso. And you're right, it's very good. What I was saying is that now my lasso is very tight and very quick. So very quickly I'll harness the mind.
I really like that. And I think the reason why pranayama or breathing practices are in general are really crucial is because we are so much on the parasympathetic system. Most people are just not aware of the breath at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like, just making people aware in my classes, I really like every movement, every breath, one movement, one breath, inhale, one movement, exhale, another movement, hold, we're counting the breath, we're actually with the breath, just to interrupt the momentum of what's going on in somebody's life and in their karmic patterns, to interrupt it through conscious breath. And the more I feel that the pranayama we can teach, the various techniques, because different horses for courses, people enjoy different things, easily. It's something they can do easily, like just the trinity of breath that you just mentioned. I have something similar to that. And it just works like magic. But I want to talk about the 3 books that you've written. Anger is Blocked Love, What is Disease, and 10 Principles of Perfect Eating. So just a little bit on that. If you'd like to share what those books are, the principle of, for example, Anger is Blocked Love. What is that?
So that's a collection of prose. That's actually a collection of 33 different prose of my writings. Anger is Blocked Love is, just as the title says, that's just one of the prose. When I actually broke down what angry people were, which I think I was one of them, like when I was younger, it's when you haven't let your love flow through your system and it's blocked through ignorance. Like, let's say you haven't understood a situation well enough of a person that you care about. When that love that you have for that person hits a brick wall of ignorance, it becomes anger. But the force is love, but the action is anger because it's hit the wall of ignorance. So as I said, anger is blocked love. It's a bit of a comical kind of statement to make because
I think it's brilliant.
People don't like to hear that.
No, but it's true, and it made me think when I was looking at at your writing. It made me think of the times when I have really been angry with somebody.
Yeah, it's only people you love, isn't it?
It's only people you love, and why is that? Because you care about them. You really care,
or about something that you love.
Yes, or it's about something that you love. For example, take my mother, for example. Most often I will get, if I lose my cool, it'll be with her. And the reason is I am so committed to her quality of life, and why are you not doing this? But why do you do that? Well, why are you doing that when we can do this? That kind
That's it, exactly.
It's more like
but
that.
Maybe one hasn't understood where other person has come from.
People don't get it. Yeah. People often don't get it. And sometimes I know of people where it's gone beyond the love stage. It's become so toxic because it's mixed up with something else. The anger is a reaction to some other emotion. It's a whole other ballgame, though. But I love that title. And you've got this book called What is Disease? In a line, what is disease?
Disease is the growth from the spiritual, the emotional, the mental to the physical level of disharmony. But it begins at the spiritual level, a disconnection, which then goes on to an emotional feeling, which then crystallizes as thoughts, and which then manifests as physical ailments.
So you can catch it early on. Through what I call the laser beam of self-awareness, you could actually catch that much earlier on.
You can, yeah.
And not allow it to come.
And you can heal things if you go through the levels. There's the 4 levels that we have. You need to catch things. Which is coming back once again to the cancer thing. Why I didn't bother why I'm not bothered at the physical level.
Because it's too late now anyway. Once it gets to the physical, it's often quite late.
Difficult, right? But then what I did is I tried to fix myself at the spiritual level really harsh and hardly, really hard, effectively. So the reason I got cancer was my disconnection with my soul and my spirit and God. I'd had a disconnection. So I fixed that disconnection. And so it wasn't feeding up the chain anymore, right? So the cancer it hasn't got the power it used to have. Oh, fair enough, it's grown, but it can't do what it wants to do, which is spread and kill me. Because it hasn't got the legs. The roots are taken out. So
Disconnection.
Correct, yeah.
Spiritual disconnection. Disease is spiritual disconnection. Interesting. Okay, very quickly. 10 principles of perfect eating. Do you remember them? What are they?
Yeah, I mean, this book has got 50 or 60 different keys and 10 principles. But yeah, they all range from attitude towards your food, how much you chew your food, when you eat your food. See, what it is what the book is basically about is that we're always told what to eat, but we're not told when to eat, how to eat, why you eat, where you eat.
For your body type.
Yeah.
What to eat for your body type.
Yeah.
Like your particular, what we call in Sanskrit, prakriti, which is in Ayurveda very, very central to looking at a person.
But that's still a little bit about what to eat for your type, right? It's still about a product. But why you eat is a question. Where you eat, what's the environment you eat, is all those kind of subtle.
Do you think people eat too much in general? Like we have this addiction to food.
I think people eat rubbish a lot. People eat ice creams and I've seen like the weather is a little bit decent at the moment and everyone's just eating fat and sugar. And it just drives me. I just don't understand why they do it. Why they put so many, because it's like 400 calories or something if you have a dessert. And people have dessert after dinner, which is like 350 calories for a cake slice or something. Why would you put all that in your body?
But I see, for me, I've figured out, for me, that works really well to have a dessert only with my dinner because I won't have any sweet otherwise. Fruit or dessert after dinner. For me, that works. I eat once a day, though. I have just one meal a day. And, regardless of how much practice I'm doing and, how much yoga I'm practicing, etc., it's just typically once. And if I really need to eat something in the afternoon, like I feel like I want to have, it's going to be a bunch of nuts, cashews or almonds or something.
Yeah, see, getting those calories from nuts and fruit is way better than having them from a dessert.
I know, but I just think in general, though, I think what I see with people, I think what I'm saying is that people can, in general, eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, even if they have 2 meals a day. There may be snacks in between and things like that. I think you just, that self-awareness of, does your body really like it? How does it feel after that? I just feel sluggish. People say, you don't have lunch. Like, this is not good for you, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I feel sluggish after lunch. My metabolism doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And I love it when I have one meal. It's shanti, quiet, nice, shanti ti besi na jamanu.
Yeah, I don't like lunch. To be honest with you. But yeah, I think,
So quantity, what you eat, why you eat is more important.
Yeah, when you eat,
who
you eat with,
what
you do when you eat, all these kind of subtle things around your food is more important than what you're eating. For example, if you have a good meal, like a very healthy meal, but you're on a table of toxic people that are talking rubbish, you're going to have bad digestion and it's all going to turn to acid in your body and fermented rubbish anyway. So you might as well not eat the good food. It's better to eat a bad meal calmly than a good meal with stress, things like that. You got to think about that. Chewing your food, saying thank you to the chef, the person that's cooked your food, saying grace, praying before you eat. I don't eat a single thing without praying anything. So all those subtle parts of food, people forget, and they just, because food is a product people can make money from, they push that. But really, you have to think about these. That's what the book is about.
So think about the vital force, the pranic element.
And even being instinctive about how you eat food. Like, if you open the fridge, you should try to think about what your body wants from it. When you go to the vegetable store, tune in with your body and see what it's asking you for, right? Rather than just buying the thing that's sold to you from an advert or what everybody else is eating. So it's that the book is about that. It's like, what are the subtle questions about food? That's why it's called Principles of Perfect Eating, how to eat.
Beautiful. Amazing. I could actually carry on talking to you about many, many things.
Me too.
It's been absolutely a privilege, Neil. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'll be sharing your coordinates, how people can find you and so on. You do hip hop yoga. We never got to talk about hip hop as part of your yoga practice, but you mentioned that you bring that into your yoga and so on. So we'll be sharing all of that. But thank you so much for joining me. I am so grateful.
And thank you for having me. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.